Are your people working hard but not reaching their full potential? The problem is not effort, it is development. At the Modern Observer Group, we transform workforce development into real performance. Our human-centered achievement programs help your team think better, communicate stronger, and execute at a higher level. That means higher employee engagement, stronger leadership, and measurable results across your organization. If you want a workforce that performs, leads, and delivers, it is time to invest in your people. Visit modernobserver.com and discover how the Modern Observer Group helps you build a workforce that wins.
U.S. airports may shut down. The House votes to make fraud a deportable crime. Inflation remains high, and more. Welcome to the Raw Naked Truth. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin, and here's the news you need to know. President Trump issued a 60-day waiver of the Jones Act, a century-old law requiring cargo between U.S. ports to be carried on American-built, American-owned, American-flagged, and American-crewed ships, in an effort to ease fuel costs as the war with Iran chokes off the Strait of Hormuz. The strait normally carries about a fifth of the world's oil, and its effective closure has pushed Brent crude above $103 per barrel and sent the average U.S. gas price to $3.84 per gallon. The waiver opens domestic ports to foreign vessels carrying oil, natural gas, fertilizer, and coal, removing a bottleneck that has long driven up shipping costs between U.S. ports. The Jones Act has been waived multiple times for emergencies, including after Hurricane Katrina in 2005, Hurricane Maria in 2017, and the Colonial Pipeline cyber attack in 2021. The Transportation Security Administration is warning that some airports could shut down entirely if employee sick days continue to climb during the partial government shutdown. More than 10% of TSA officers nationwide called out on March 15th, 5 times the normal rate. Atlanta is seeing 37% of its workforce absent and wait times topping 2 hours. Hundreds of officers have quit, and the 50,000 still showing up are working without pay, with some struggling to afford gas after missing their first full paycheck last week. 3 of Philadelphia's 6 checkpoints will be closed, and officials say the situation will only worsen the longer Congress blocks funding for the Department of Homeland Security. Union leaders representing Transportation Security Administration workers in Atlanta called on lawmakers Monday to end the Department of Homeland Security shutdown, saying the stalemate has crippled its members financially as they continue to work without being paid. The U.S. House of Representatives passed legislation Wednesday to crack down on illegal immigrants participating in welfare fraud, despite fierce objections from most Democrats. Lawmakers voted 231 to 186 to approve the Deporting Fraudsters Act, with 186 Democrats opposing the measure. The bill, sponsored by Representative David Taylor, would amend the Immigration and Nationality Act to explicitly define fraud as a deportable offense. Republicans said the legislation is necessary to ensure that non-citizens who steal taxpayer dollars are no longer eligible for immigration relief services or legal protections. Belgium is ramping up security for its Jewish community after a recent synagogue attack heightened fears across Europe, as a newly emerged terrorist group with suspected ties to Iran has claimed responsibility for a series of strikes on Jewish targets across the continent. The Islamic movement of the Companions of the Right said it carried out multiple attacks recently, including the March 9th explosion at a synagogue in Liège, Belgium, according to a Fox News Digital report. The group also claimed responsibility for an arson attack on a synagogue in Rotterdam, Belgium, and an explosive attack on a Jewish school in Amsterdam. A fourth incident at a Jewish site in Greece has been linked to the group by several sources, though details about that attack remain limited. Labor rights activist Dolores Huerta revealed she was among women and girls who say they were sexually abused by César Chavez, the widely admired Latino icon who brought to light the struggles of farmhands while leading the United Farm Workers Union. The stunning allegations against Chavez, who died more than 3 decades ago, drew immediate calls to altar memorials honoring the man who in the 1960s helped secure better wages and working conditions for farm workers and has long been revered by many Democratic leaders in the U.S. In a statement released Wednesday, Huerta said she stayed silent for 60 years out of concern that her words would hurt the farm worker movement. U.S. producer prices rose more than twice as fast as expected in February, according to data released Wednesday by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The Producer Price Index rose 0.7% in February over the previous month, up from January's 0.5% gain and more than double economists' expectations for an increase of 0.3%. Excluding the more volatile food and energy costs, producer prices advanced by 0.5% over the previous month, outpacing the 0.3% growth economists had predicted, but below the previous month's gain of 0.8%. That's the Raw Naked Truth for March 19th, 2026. You can catch every episode of the Raw Naked Truth Daily News Brief, as well as our sister podcast, Carnivore Radio, with news analysis and commentary, and the rest of the Xvadio Podcast Network at xvadio.com, the Apple Podcast app, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech. We'll see you next time.